Hello, I'm Lynn Mareth with Data Network Group out of Boulder, Colorado. My husband's Mike Perkins. We've been married 12 years, no kids. We both met in college, so we were both very technical. And I joined his business in 2000 as a consultant, and then realized as the business started to grow, and we were both very dominant lion kind of people, that two captains couldn't steer the ship, so I pulled back. And now I work internally in the business and do the financial stuff, the HR, and marketing.
Right. And I as well. I handle the HR, finance, marketing, and I also manage the admin staff. And one thing I don't know if I mentioned, but my husband's Alex Ziogas, and he's the facilitator of HTG 16. So he started HTG in 2007. We started in HTG 7. And then he became a facilitator in 2008. And for a couple quarters there, because he couldn't be at both meetings, I acted as the member, but then we were in two different meetings and it was kind of crazy for the both of us. So we made the decision to just stay in 16. So since January of 2009, I've been coming to every meeting. So we travel for the 4 meetings a year. So yeah. So the things that we're going to talk about today, so holding your spouse accountable, when you think of that, when Lynn and I were talking and Arlen had first brought the topic to us, which by the way, I want to thank Arlen for having a spouse track just for us. So I was very, very excited to hear that, because we really, you know how they say behind every successful man is a strong, independent woman? Well, I really believe that our husbands are successful because of us. So I was thrilled when Arlen had a track just for us. So some of the things I want to talk about is that a happy home, it all starts at the home, right? So a happy home equals a happy and profitable business. The next thing I want to talk about are expectations and providing support to your spouse and what that means. And then we're going to spend some time talking about communication techniques and breaking the barriers of communication. And this really works off the whole thing that we were talking about with Melissa and Rich, with the personality profiles and modalities and things like that. So, and does anyone get Arlen's blog every morning, Thoughts on the Farm? He talks a little bit about scripture, he talks about his day, he talks about his travels. It's really a great blog. I incorporate that into my morning routine. But one of the things he said is, I was reading on April 12th, he sends us out every day, 7 days a week, whether he's in China or wherever he is, he gets the blog out. And he had said, a true accountability partner lovingly opens our eyes to blind spots and helps bring the light upon life and the current situation we are in. They don't fix anything. That is not their role. So when I saw this, I thought, oh, that's so key, because when we think about our accountability and keeping our spouse on track, we don't want it necessarily to mean that we're being a nag towards them. Because when you're a nag to your spouse, you're really being hard on your spouse, whereas the way I look at it is, I choose to be more hard on the problem. So like my spouse, for example, which actually he's here in the red shirt, he's in charge of all the sales. He's our salesperson. So our goal is 3 new clients a month. But if we don't meet that goal, I'm not going to be hard on him about it, and I'm not going to nag him. I'm going to think to myself, okay, so what prohibited him from going out and selling? Did he get too pulled into the day-to-day? What else was going on, and how could I provide support and help him in the business so that he can go out and sell more to reach those goals of 3 new clients a quarter? So as I was thinking about this topic, because it's such a big topic, how to keep your spouse accountable and stay married. So I thought to myself, well, what's really the ultimate goal? And at the end of the day, what we all want is a great life. And what does that mean to have a great life? When you work in the business and you have your own business, your life, your home life and your business life are so connected. They're so intertwined. So how do we have this great life? What does it look like? And it looks different to all of us. The definition of a great life can mean different things to all of us. So what does that mean, and how do we get that great life? So really, the happy home and a profitable business, those are the conditions for making a great life. So, and really, we get to choose what that looks like. So it all starts at home, like I mentioned. Providing support and understanding expectations. We're going to talk about defining a process, because everything's a process. And I'll tell you, when we started AZBS, I was 23, Alex was 30, we were very young. We started the business, we got married in 1993, we started the business in 94, we had our first child in 95. So AZBS, I say, is my 4th child, the oldest of my 4 children. And we sort of had this deal, and we said, okay, if we're gonna go into business for ourselves, we know it's gonna be a big commitment. I grew up in a family business where You know, my mom, we had a restaurant. My mom supported my dad in the business. We started working from the time we were 10, 11 years old. So we knew what it was like to have a family business and the commitment that it was going to take. So we basically said, I said, okay, if we're going to do this, I will handle everything in the home. You know, once we start having kids, whether that means taking out the garbage, whether that means cutting the lawn, whatever that means, I will handle everything at the home, and you just have to focus on doing one thing. But you have to do it really good, and you have to work really hard. And that was sort of the deal that we made. Those are the expectations that we set at the beginning because we were both committed to success. And you know, along the way, we started having children, and I would help out in the business on a part-time basis, and as we were having more kids, it was challenging, so I would work from home, and sooner or later we hired someone to handle the invoicing, and then he hired more techs in that. So, did you have a question? Okay. So then, so we had set those expectations, and we were committed to success from the beginning. And so I remember along the way, the day as I was having kids, and we were, he was working a ton of hours, and I'm at home dealing with the kids, and I was stressed out, and I'd call him, and I'm like, the days are so long, and this is so hard, and there's so many kids, and I'm tired. And he had his own stress. I remember at the beginning, we had an accounting client, and I remember he working one time like 36 hours straight, and I would call him in the middle of the night and be like, are you, is everything working good with the servers and all that? And just, we always knew we had each other's backs there. We always knew that it was difficult at the beginning, but we knew that that's what it took. My family room was a office, my living room was a lab. I don't know if some of you started your own businesses in your home, but some of you may remember what the early days were like. So it's definitely, been a long process. So we want to have this great life and this happy life, but what are some of the challenges to having that? And really what I've seen is that it's poor communication at home that can definitely affect your spouse's ability to perform. Our industry, as you know, is really a stressful industry, so it's difficult to sustain over time. I remember, so when clients are calling, they're already upset, they're frustrated, something's not working, the whole office is down. So they're already like tense when they're calling, so part of what we have to do is we're constantly putting out fires and calming them down. One time, it was about 10 years ago, we received a box from a client. It was a huge box, and we're all like, what is this? And why would Jessica be sending us something? So Alex opens it up, and it turns out it's this $1,000 Herman Miller office chair. And we're all like, why did she send this in? Did we do something wrong? And it was just, and so Alex called her and said, hey, thank you so much for the chair. And she said, oh, we just appreciated everything that you guys did, and we just wanted to show our appreciation by sending you something. And we were all like shocked. We were, thank you very much. So our industry is stressful. It's difficult for our spouses, when they're having a bad day. Sometimes we can't understand what they're going through, but it seems like they're constantly putting out fire. So already tensions are already high. So without a good home life, it's hard to have a happy business because both are so closely connected. So I was thinking about, what would we think, and what do we think our life would look like over time? So I pictured like a straight line. We're born, we die, and it's just smooth sailing in the middle. But really, what is the reality of what our life is really like? There's challenges. There's employees, stuff with employees. An employee quits. You lose a large client. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Family issues. I mean, I come from a big family. I come from a very big Greek family. So there's lots of drama in the Greek families. So someone's always upset at someone. There's, the holidays. It's like, where are we going to spend the holidays? There's always something going on. So really, this is the reality of what our life is really like. There's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. And so that support that you have with your spouse, it's really critical that that you're always unified in your relationships, because then you can reach your business and your personal goals faster. So other problems that get in the way is that people and married couples, we have a hard time communicating and being close. And for whatever reason, we can feel misunderstood, we can feel unappreciated, or even disrespected. So what does it mean to be close? And I want to talk a little bit about core values, and I want to talk about how it's a real energy to being connected to someone. So let's talk about core values for a minute. So in our business, we have a mission statement, we have a vision, and we have core values. But really, core values, we need to be aware of what our own core values are and what our spouse's core values are. I mean, there's a reason why, you were attracted to your spouse, why you married your spouse, why you have certain friends, why you don't have certain friends anymore. And really, even at my daughters that are 16 and 14, even at their young age, they're already seeing how they gravitate towards certain friends and not toward other girls. And they can see how things have changed over time, even since they were in middle school. As they're getting into high school, they'll say, so-and-so, I'm not so much friends with her anymore, but this girl, Brittany, I really connect with her and we have so much in common. And I'll say, well, that's because your core values are in alignment. And one of the things about Lynn and myself and my friend Robin here in the front, our spouses were all in HTG 16 together. We three are at such different points in our life. So Robin has older children and she has got grandchildren. I have younger kids and Lynn doesn't have any kids, and her husband take these amazing exotic trips. They fly, Robin and Ken fly. So one of the things that brings us together is our core values. So the way, our marriages, how we support our spouses in the business. So there's so many things, our work ethic, so our core values is what really connects us and brings us together, and we've become really good friends through HTG. So, Arlen always talks about the 4 plans and the life plan and all that. So one of the things is that as part of HTG, your spouses have to put these plans together, but I highly recommend that you also put together your life plan, because we play such an integral part. I had mentioned earlier that we provide value. So whether you work in the business or not, whether you're technical or not, we provide a lot of value, and our role is really important. So it's really important to put that life plan together, and it doesn't have to be as detailed as the sample that we saw, because when I look at that, initially there was just a lot of words on the page, and I thought, oh my gosh, how long is this going to take me? Well, I actually just finished mine back in early April, and it took me about 4 days or so to complete it. So in addition with that, it's important to have your priorities kind of listed out. And this is an example. You can, if your priority is God first, immediate family, people say, well, why would you put God in front of your family? And I truly believe that I don't believe in coincidences. I don't think that things happen on accident. I believe that, I've got my kids and my spouse, I've got this business, and I just think that there's a higher being involved that's helping make that all happen. So that's sort of, my list. And then I put HTG peers on there because since we've been in HTG, we've gotten so close with some of our peers. And back in January, I know that Deborah had talked about this too, and that back in January of 2009, I wasn't here for that meeting, but Alex was here, and we were in Dallas here, he ended up in the hospital. He was not feeling well from earlier in the week, and then by Friday he ended up in the hospital, and 2 of his friends, Chris and Wade, is Jessica here by any chance, or did she go? She must have left. So Jessica, who was sitting in the back, her husband Chris and Wade, I knew that he wasn't feeling well, so we were on the phone all day on and off on that Friday, and they booked my ticket, they got me on a flight, they picked me up at the airport, they drove me to the hospital, anything I needed while I was there. And Wade even, because Wade lives in Dallas, he even washed all of Alex's clothes, folded them, and brought them back to him. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've known these guys for a year, and I can't believe all that they did for us. I've known some people for 20 years that may have not done all that. So I was just so touched, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just forever in these people's debt for taking care of my husband and my family when I couldn't be there. So that was huge. So our relationships with our peers are really important. Okay, so we're talking about the goal of having a great life and some of the things that get in the way, but it's like everything, it's a process. So it's really important to understand ourselves, and I know that Melissa had talked about this and Rich too when she was talking about the personality profiles, but it's really important to understand ourselves. It's really important to understand our spouse's needs and expectations, your kids' needs, your employees even, and everyone ultimately needs to feel understood. So one of the things, my process is that I knew early on, I knew what Alex needed, I knew what his expectations were, and I knew that he needed help in the business, and I wanted to be part of the business. I also know what my kids need, so I've designed my life around what Alex's expectations are, what his needs are, what the kids' needs are, and I sort of designed my life around that. So that's why I choose to work 2 to 3 days a week, because that way I can be there at home enough for the kids, and I can also be in the business helping out as much as I can there. So next, I want to talk about communication, because I think that so much of what we're talking about here and some of the issues that we have has to do with communication. So really, we really need to become experts in communication. And what does that mean? So we need to tell our spouse how we're feeling and what the expectation is. You know, Sandy talked about intuition. We should never assume we know that they know what we're thinking. And it's important to listen to your spouse and also that they hear you, that they listen to you, and ask questions. And the last bullet, so about 6 months, you know, Alex and I spent a lot of time. We work together, we drive to work 27 miles, so it's about an hour in the car. We're at the office together, so we're eating breakfast at home, lunch at the office. We come home again, another hour coming home. So he and I are spending a lot of time together. So when we're driving home one day, and you know, I get in the mood where I sometimes just kind of like to talk, and you know how we are, we like to get things off our chest. And he says to me, okay, hold on. He says, do I have to solve anything? And I go, no. Okay, do you need help with anything? I go, no. I go, I'm just talking to talk. So just listen. So he says, okay. So I said, oh wait, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I said, it's gonna be A, B, and C. So A is talking to talk, B is I need you to solve something for me, and C is I need advice. So he's like, okay. So many times now I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to talk. He's like, all right, good. So that way he knows that he doesn't have to solve anything or he doesn't have to advise, he just needs to listen to me. So that's one of our communication techniques that we've used. Yeah, it works. So the next thing I want to talk about are modalities and how modalities play a role. And modalities are really like how we physically take in information. So I'm going to introduce Alex. I want him to come up here and I want him to talk a little bit about modalities and what that means. Okay. Alex has been studying this for about 10 years, and he taught me a lot about what this all means.
Well, good afternoon, ladies. Can you hear me okay? Oh, for the recording. So actually it was more like 25 years ago. I was turned on to something called neurolinguistic programming, also as a study of modalities. But I'm not going to get into the science of it. I'm just going to talk about 3 things. We humans are creatures of filtering. So what that means is that whatever filter we work best with, we tend to block out everything else. And we are also, they're doing it with grammar school and children now. There are people who learn visually, slide presentations, flashcards. Some kids learn auditorily, reciting words, spelling, listening to lectures. And there's also kids that learn kinesthetically. And one of the telltale signs of a kinesthetic child, and we have a tendency to put a lot of definitions on people, is attention deficit disorder. And what happens is, it's not that they have any attention deficit, they just need to be busy. One of our children showed sign of this. So what we did when she was doing her homework, we got her squeezy ball. So she's doing her homework, she's being occupied by a kinesthetic touch feeling, and she turns into an A student. Well, those are the 3 main modalities. And one of the things I found out very early is that I'm visually dominant. There's a tendency for men to be visually dominant. So one of the things that happens, and we realized this many years ago, is that I remember being in the car, and she was going to see a home, and she starts with when you walk through the door, on the left-hand side is the fireplace, and it's white, and on the right-hand side and is this, and after the second sentence, all I could hear is wop, 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 like the Charlie Brown skit. And I didn't understand, but I knew. And then she was done talking, she asked me a question, and I was like, oh, I don't know what she said. So I said, I gotta go. She goes, but I'm not done talking. I said, yeah, but there's something's going on, and I had to hang up. So later on that evening, I talked a little bit about this, and I said, listen, with no disrespect, I said, but I'm not hearing anything past one sentence. And she would tell me to do things, and I would do the first thing, but I wouldn't do the rest of the things. So she got really wise and started emailing me to-do lists. Everything got done. I had a list to follow. I didn't have to remember. And it also applies to directions. If somebody gives me directions to get somewhere, make a left turn on Juncture and make a right on this, all I hear after Juncture, whoa, 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 whoa. So GPS has also saved my life. Pam is also auditory. That's her dominant modality, so she likes to talk things through.
Talking to talk.
Talking to talk. And that's also helped us out as well, because a lot of times she'll go into that 0 to 60 miles an hour, and I'll say, are we talking to talk? She goes, yes. So I just sit there and I listen. I want to make sure I don't try to solve anything I'm not supposed to solve. Anyway, so those are the, these are the study of personality types. This is also known as the DISC scores: dominant, influence, steadiness, and
consistency.
Consistency. And using them in an animal notation is a lot easier to remember. It's a lot more fun to practice and learn, and it's very important. What I just shared with you is the communication skills, how we filter our world. So for example, I'm sure that Lynn has phased out the sound of the projector right now, but until I pointed to it, now you could hear it again. So we have a tendency to filter out whatever's not in our dominant modality. And the most important thing is to first learn what yours is, and then learn what your spouse is. And from there, you could take it to your children, to coworkers, to your business. It's an amazing tool, and it's just amazing.
So how does one go about taking a test to find out what you're...
Thank you. There's a lot of phenomenal books out there. You could Google them. But one of the ones that I found that's really easy to follow, and it was also on Oprah's top list, it's called Instant Rapport by Michael Brooks.
And I actually have this on the last slide, so I have some information and resources for you guys.
So it's a really good book, and very simple, it's very small, like $10. And it gives you kind of skim through it or read the whole thing, and it gives you 30 questions to answer. And then it gives you a description of a situation, and then it asks you, A, was it something that you remembered seeing? B, was it something you heard? B, C,
was it something you felt?
Was it something you felt when that situation happened? So you basically take all of these 30 questions, very simple. A couple are private, so you don't want to share with everybody. And then you total up your A, B, and C's, and it'll pretty quickly tell you what your dominant modality is, what your secondary is, and what your third is.
So what's nice about it is then once you know what your spouse is and what you are, you can structure the conversation around that. So with Alex, I use a lot of words like, with me, he'll say, how does that sound to you? And with him, I'll say, do you see what I'm saying? Which sounds funny because how do you see what you're saying? But visual people will speak very fast because they're trying to get the pictures out of their head all the time. And I know with our children, one of them is very visual and one of them is more auditory and the other one is more auditory. So when I used to practice spelling tests with them, I would say it out loud. But with my visual daughter, I would have her write it down because she needed to write it down. She always has to have like a list written down, and so she was more visual. And when you're dealing with more of a kinesthetic person, kinesthetic people will speak slower. And so because they want to see how that feels or how that sits with them. Visual people talk really fast. And auditory people, we're just, we just talk normal. So the key is really for you and your spouse to understand each other's main modality and then structure the communication around that. I know with Alex and I over the last, I would say 5 to 10 years or so since we've been doing this, it's made so much of a difference because the whole house example he was giving you now, I draw pictures, I send emails. I don't tell him when we have family obligations. I send him Outlook invites. That way he sees it and it gets on his calendar. So it just helps us keep, and he accepts them. Next, I want to talk about the power of assessments. And the reason why I'm titling this Powerful is that I had a personality profile done in the fall of 2008. And it's very similar to this whole concept. And that was the first time I ever had anything like that. And when I read the report and everything, it was just so powerful for me. And the gentleman that we worked with, his name is Zeke Lopez, and he's with the company Bus Concepts. And he is the one that introduces to us. He actually does the assessment test for us, and then he goes through and he does a talent talk with you. So he explains, your personality and all that. And it's funny because he'll be telling you about yourself, and you're like, yeah. And he's like, I bet when you blah, 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 that this. I'm like, you're right, And he was just nailing everything about how we behave and what our personalities are. And it's very similar. So one of the reports he runs is a DISC report, which is very similar to the monkey, camel, turtle, lion. And it's the DISC, and like the dominance is more of like a lion character. The influence is the monkey. If you're a people person, your influence and relationship skills. Steadiness is more of a turtle. It's your patience level. Compliance is the camel. So it really teaches you, like Melissa and Rich had said, how we're all wired differently, and we just need to learn to understand how our spouse is wired and then learn to appreciate the strengths and the weaknesses.
And Pam, can you mention after you talked to Zeke and you did your assessment, how it changed you and how you ran your business differently?
So before the fall of 2008, our plan was always like our youngest son, when he was going to go into first grade, then I would be working more in the office and I'd physically be going to the office more. And this test, and we were working with Zeke right around this time, and I was doing the minimal. I was doing, the payroll, and I was paying the bills, and I was, working with our accountant on the taxes and paying the payroll taxes and all that. But Zeke did this report for us, and he said to me, you know what, you have a lot of talent. And he said to Alex, she's got a lot of talent, and she should be helping you in the business more. She has a lot of empathy, and she scored really high for managing people. So that really gave me so much self-confidence, and I was telling him, you changed my life. And he's like, no, actually, he's like, you made it happen. And I know that Christy has worked with Zeke, and I call Zeke the magic miracle worker, because just what he's taught us over time. And initially we use these for our people to understand our employees better. And the big bonus and gift that we got out of this is that we understood each other so much more. So here's an example of mine and Alex's disc, okay? So over the course of 3 years, I've been able to analyze and look at probably about 100 different scores, 100 different disc tests, because anyone that we use it in our recruiting tool, and anyone that we're looking at making either a serious offer to or someone that we're considering, we'll do an assessment test on them. And prior to 2008, if you were technical and you were good, chances are you were hired. Where now we have a whole different outlook. If you don't have this relationship skill, this high I, no matter how technical you are, if you can't relate to people and people don't like you, it's like a no-win situation. So here's an example. I always said my husband was real black and white. So when I saw that 100 score, I'm like, I never see a 100 score. So he is all I influence. He's a lot of monkey. He's a good amount of lion. One is the patience. And I'm like, that explains it, because anytime I try to tell a story, he's like, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. So
he's like, I got one sentence. That's all I got.
So now I've learned to get it all out there quicker. But the thing that, because of his influence and relationship skill, you don't get so annoyed with him, because he's really able to kind of smooth things over. So easily. So these are my results, and you can see I'm like a low lion. I'm, sort of a high. Anything over 50 is considered more higher, and I have a lot more patience. So one of the things that makes us work so well is that I have a lot of patience. In order, Zeke had said, you know what? For someone to be with Alex, his spouse needs to have a lot of patience. So these are our scores, and then I wanted to talk about Mike and Lynn's score, because when I saw Mike and Lynn, I said to them, oh my gosh, your scores are almost identical. Did you do these at the same time? Did you do these? And she's like, no. And I thought, I've never seen this before. So I said to her, you guys are so identical. How have you not killed each other yet? And number two, I said, it's no wonder you guys get so much done, because I go, you have no patience, and you're all about the task. So yeah, I was really, really, I was surprised to see that. But you know what? I said to her, you know what makes you guys work, you and Mike? Because your core values are in alignment.
We're so much alike.
Yeah. So I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about your scores and you.
Well, I was a little surprised when I saw that. I knew I was a high D from many years ago when I had taken a disc, but I didn't realize how alike we were until Pamela put them up side by side. And I was like, did she put up the same one? I'm like, nope, that's Mike's and that's mine. So I guess what really works for us is we do get things done, and I know what makes my husband tick. So he's really easy to deal with. I'm like, guys are so easy. So, and maybe it's because we're so much alike, and when I talk, I like to get things, right to the point and get things done, and he's the same way. So I think that's what works for us. And the other big thing, like I mentioned before, I mean, we both used to do the same thing in the business, and which was great. I had my own clients. I had a lot of female clients that worked with me over the years, and it was great. But at some point, we started to grow a lot, and it's very tough when you have like 4 people, and then next thing you're 10 people. So you have to make a lot of decisions. And I was feeling like the company should go in one direction. He was feeling like it should go in another direction, and I was like, we can't have that. We can't have 2 captains, sailing this ship. So he's got some really great ideas, and he's got great vision, and he started the company. So I decided to pull back, and we do like to travel a lot too, so that allows us to travel more now that I'm in the office. And I've taken a role where I'm kind of in the shadows, which is hard for a lion to do, so I'm always like, "Ugh." So when I am in the office, and sometimes it's 5 days a week, but not a full 8 hours, I like to get what get it done, get in, get out, no one gets hurt kind of thing. But so it seems to work out for us, and I have no problems working with him. we actually do have a lot of humor together, even though we're lions. And like every day, our thing to do together is to go to lunch together. And it's good for us to share at lunch. We can share work and talk about things about work, because our rule in our family pretty much is once we get home and it's after 5, we don't talk about work. Like Pamela said, work is so stressful as it is. And then to bring that to your home front where we have a very happy life would totally drag us down. So occasionally if something's going on, if one of us brings it up and the other one doesn't want to talk about it, we say, nope, we're at home. And the other person knows, we're quiet, we're not going to talk about it. Sometimes it might be something that we both do want to share in, and at that point we will share. But it's definitely helped our marriage to keep things kind of separate and enjoy life at home, and then, you know, put on our business time when we get into the office, and, you know, focus on work, and lunchtime is a good time for us to share about those kinds of things.
Yeah, we sort of have that same rule too. It's like the minute we go up the stairs to go to our room, that's it. No more shop talk. So we set those boundaries really tight. That way it doesn't then completely take over your life. So yeah. So again, the ultimate goal, I just want to recap for a moment. The ultimate goal is having a great life, and really it all starts at home. So, you know, when your home life is happy, so many times it translates into a good, successful business. We've had the opportunity of talking and working with so many HTG people, and sometimes, you know, it's sad sometimes when some of these members are just struggling with their personal lives, their stuff is going on, and it almost always translates into stress in the business. So really it all starts at home. It's important to provide support and understand each other's expectations. You know, it's a process, so you want to define your process. And then we really need to become experts in communication and really understand how our spouses are wired. So Alex had mentioned the book Instant Rapport. That's a book by Michael Brooks. There's a 30-question quiz in there that he mentioned. I highly recommend you guys take that, because that'll also then help you understand if you're more auditory, visual, kinesthetic. And then you can sort of pick up with your kids too. I didn't have my kids take the test, but I can tell just based on watching them and interacting with them, I can kind of tell like which one they are. And then if you wanted to, if anyone has not taken a DISC assessment, you can email me and I can get you a complimentary DISC assessment for you and your husband ordered. And my email's there. And also I wanted to talk about the Dr. Larry Little, which is the enrichment center that Melissa works for. His book is Making a Difference, and their website is theenrichmentcenter.org, and it talks a lot about the 4 personality profiles. So yeah.
Should I leave that up there, or do you accept next
Did you guys need to leave that up there or anything? And does anyone have questions? Any questions or anything?
You know what I would love to know from you guys too, are what kind of challenges do you face? Because not all of you work with your spouses, or maybe you do. So what kind of challenges are you facing? And maybe since we have so much time left over, we can kind of share and help each other out.
How many people in here actually work in the business with their husbands?
Said how many people work at home, work at the business with their husbands?
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say your level of communication is with your spouse? Like 10 being like outstanding and 1 being poor.
So how many are 10?
5s, would you say?
5 to 10.
I just want to comment.
Well, you can scream.
No, but they are recording. Something very important to note, that we're not this ideal couple overnight. This is a work in progress, and it's taken a long time to get here, but knowing each other almost 24 years, you finally come to a medium, and we grow more together than apart. When Pamela first started coming into the office, when our son started going to school full-time, you know, I'd have a bad day, and it was really hard. And when it's bad, it's really bad. And you don't even feel like getting up in the morning sometimes. But with her enthusiasm, we get in the car in the morning, and this is one of the funniest things she does. I'm there grumpy, ready to go to work. I don't want to deal with the day. And she's like, are we going to work today?
Because I'm just so excited I don't have to run into 17 different places in the day, and I can stay in one spot all day. Like, are we going to work today?
The minivan shuttle service for our 3 children and 2 activities per child are put on hold, and it's quite interesting. And of course, some days I look at her and smile. Other days I look at her and I give her that look.
And we don't
like,
say
I'm not happy to go to
anything on
work.
the ride home.
So
We're not
then,
talking to
you know,
talk
and there
at
are
all.
times that, you know, we spend a lot of time together, but we will drive home that 1 hour and you don't hear a word. So it's very important that you know that it is a work in progress, and we obviously have our challenges too. So.
And you know, one thing I'm going to mention too is that, talking about challenges, back in September of 2010, we lost our largest client, which was about 35 to 40% of our business. And I remember that he was sitting in his car, he called me, I happened to be home, and he was just feeling so down. I don't think in all the years that we've known each other, been married, that he was just not in a very good place. And I just said, you know what? I said, we have a strong marriage, our kids are healthy, I'm like, we have a great family. I said, we'll figure this out. I said, as long as we're healthy, we'll figure it all out. You know, I know that I'm here for you, you're here for me, we'll figure it out. Because you know what, work is work, but you know, the family is the most important thing. Last week, my son wanted to go to a fun fair, and it was Friday at 6 o'clock or so. So Alex was going to leave the office at around 3 o'clock because we work in the city of Chicago. There's traffic to get home, so we sort of have to plan in advance. Well, then on Thursday, he sends me, I was at the office, and he forwards me an email from a client that the client wanted to meet him at 4 o'clock on Friday, which meant the meeting would have gone till about 8 o'clock. And I thought, oh, you know what? At the end of our lives, I'm like, you're not going to remember this meeting with this client, but you will remember that you missed the fun fair with our son. So I'm like, you can't make that meeting. I mean, usually I'm all about, well, it's the client, and I'll go to the fun fair instead, but this time I was like, no. I'm like, you are going to that fun fair. We're going to figure this out. So he did. I said, I'll stay at the office till 9 o'clock tonight. You can meet with him tonight, whatever it takes. And he did. He went, and he went through the client's secretary. And he's like, Jennifer, can you please set up this meeting tonight? I really need to make this happen. So she did. So he went over there 5:30. He was done at 7:30. We went home. I'm like, okay, good. He's going to the fun fair. So yeah. So yeah.
Because he's with you for 2 minutes and then the friends come and then.
So do you guys have any questions about anything, or want to just talk about your experiences, or how's it going so far with coming to an HTG meeting? I have to tell you, I'm just thrilled that there's even a spouse track for us, because this has been a lot of really good information that's just geared us, and we get that $129 valuation tool. So that's good. So I think in just this small amount of time, we've really been able to learn a lot and learn about the personality profiles and everything. So are you guys going to stay for the meeting then the next couple days? Do you guys usually sit in on the meetings? So I sit in at my first meeting in 2008, I think it was, and I said to him, I'm kind of nervous, I'm just kind of coming out of mommy land, and I'm just so rusty, and I'm going to be in this room with all men, and will I have anything to say? And after 10 minutes, I just started talking. And the one guy looks at the other and goes, you think she's involved in the business? You think she knows what's going on? And I said to him, and that was another kind of self-confidence booster, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually had stuff to say, and they listened. So that was really nice. And then since we've been coming, I've learned so much in the last couple years just by being more actively involved in the group. You just learn so much from your other peers.
I have something to say, as you guys seem like you really got it together. But I'm like living, breathing hope. I'm at the learning track. I'm actually building skills right now. I just went through this with the same program that they were talking about. Zeke is our marriage counselor, business coach, and
mentor,
and personal growth coach. Quite honestly, he works with us on one-on-one basis and as a team. And I've learned so much about Brian that I didn't know I really kind of actually knew. But it was like I had a whole new respect. We're still learning the skill to deal with the information that we learn, but sometimes business and life are hard. And when you mix the two, dear God, watch out, because there's explosions. And sometimes it's not even about what the hell made the explosion. So you got to learn how to build those skills to really communicate and find out what is really the problem. Where is the source coming from? And it's made a big difference for Brian and I. We have a lot of growth still. But if any of you guys are having that type of challenge right now, it can get better if that's what you want.
For sure.
If that's what you want.
You know, we need to learn to recover quickly.
Right.
So when things are really bad and when our stress levels are high, you know, we have to learn to bounce back quickly. Whatever tools we use, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whatever, hugging the kids, whatever it is, you have to figure it out, because I know part of this assessment that we've done, there's another report that's called a performance zone report. And that's really about this. The DISC is about the behaviors, like kind of what's on the outside. But the performance zone is really how you're wired on the inside, what you value. And the report shows that Alex has an extremely high tension index. You know, he's a candidate. You know, Zeke had said, you know what, he has a lot of stress and he doesn't necessarily know how to recover quickly from things. So over the last 3 years, that's one of the main things we've been working on, because he said, you know, he's a candidate for a heart attack. And I'm like, okay, we can't have that happen. So one of the reasons why I kind of stepped up coming into the office more is I said, if I have to do one thing and just help him kind of manage stress. I mean, there are times when I'm sitting in his office and he's like, just sit here. And I'm like, okay. You know, because stuff will be going on and he'll just need to bounce things, just talk it out. I'm like, okay. And because I definitely have like a more, how Zeke describes it as, you let things roll and you move on to the next thing. So I don't necessarily hold things in and let it get to me. So calming demeanor. I'm all about the calm, the zen. Yes.
Robert and I, we've been married for, can you get me to this? Okay. Robert and I have been married for almost 31 years, and I've taken the opposite role than what you did, because as much as I love him and as much as he loves me, somebody's going to be dead at the end of the day if I was there all the time. And that's okay. So I chose to take care of everything at home, deal with the kids. I was the homeroom mom, I was the taxi driver, I was the everything. And then I tried to make our home as comfortable as possible, so that when Robert did come home at the end of the day, he could relax and he could get rid of some of the stress. But something else, you have to find out what works best with you and your spouse.
Right.
I mean, it may be one particular thing, it may be a mix of all of these things. And I just want to say to you, you've got your priorities right.
Well, and for you, what you do for your husband is you allow him the mental freedom to go do his one thing really good. And that's huge, because I have friends, the poor guy has had 4 different businesses, none of them have been successful. He's got this wife who yaks, do this, do that, run and get the kids, run and do this, the poor guy can't even just sit and think, how is he going to be successful when he's got all this pressure, you know? So our role and contribution is huge. And I said, whether you're technical or not, whether you work in the business or not, it's so critical, and we call that creating space. We allow our husbands to create that space in their mind to just really run with it and work in the business, because it's so hard to run a successful business.
Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to think that, you know, I'm the bond servant at the house, and you know, and I don't, there's no respect there. That's what I chose. I chose this 30 years ago, was I wanted to be a stay-home wife and mom. I was a state 4-H agent in Arkansas at the time, but that's not what I wanted to do. I knew the Lord had instilled that in me, that from the time I was a little kid, I wanted just to be home, to be a wife and a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert wanted somebody like that, so it worked. That works for us. They may not work for everybody,
Right.
but you've got to find your on-ramp to the freeway that makes it good.
Right.
And it's out there. It's
Well,
out there for everybody.
And also too, it's like I was a stay-at-home mom, and for many years, I mean, my goal is when the youngest was going to go into first grade, because I knew there was going to be 6 hours in the day that I was going to have free, and I definitely wanted to help out more. But I mean, you have to do what works for you. So for me, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week didn't work for me, because I wanted to make sure that I still went to, you know, the volleyball games, the swim meets. I wanted to be involved. I mean, and there are times when I leave the office at 3 because I got to get home at 5 for the volleyball banquet or whatever it is. I don't want to miss out on any of that, and I'm so grateful that my husband started this business, because I can have ultimate flexibility to be the mom that I want to be for my kids, support my husband, go to my yoga class, do something for me, because really, if we don't take care of ourselves, who's going to take care of us? We have to put ourselves somewhere on that priority. We have to take care of ourselves as well. So it's up to you. You can choose. You can make it all work. I don't believe that you can have everything. I think it's very difficult when when women work tons of hours and they still, someone's got to take care of the kids. Someone's got to do the grocery shopping. Someone's got to get the stuff done at home. So it's definitely a balancing act. But the great news is we get to choose. So yeah. Any other comments, questions? Anything? Oh, good. Very good. Thank you so much.
Brought to you by the fine folks at Varvid. Video and digital media for business. Contact us at info@varvid.com or online at varvid.com.